My dear friends, if you have lived long enough, you know that life has a way of teaching us lessons sometimes gently, and sometimes through storms we never saw coming. After 60, the way we see the world changes. The laughter and tears of our youth leave their marks, not just on our faces, but deep within our hearts. And in this stage of life, wisdom is no longer something we chase, it's something we live. But here is the truth many forget: wisdom alone is not enough. We must also learn how to use it, how to give without being taken advantage of, how to love without losing ourselves, and how to stand tall without stepping on others. These are not lessons you find in books. They are the kind of truths you discover only after walking through decades of joy, pain, mistakes, and triumphs. In today's video, I will share with you 6 powerful life messages that, if embraced, can transform the way you live your remaining years. They come from the lessons of generations before us, from real stories, and from the quiet reflections of a life well observed. So I invite you stay with me until the very end of this video. Listen not just with your ears, but with your heart. If you find even one message here that speaks to you, I kindly ask you to subscribe to this channel and share this video with someone you care about. Now, let us begin. 1. Give help wisely. Not all help leads to good. My friends, in a lifetime, most of us have been taught that kindness is a virtue, that when someone is in need, we should open our hands and hearts. And it is true, kindness shapes the soul. But as the years pass, you begin to realize a difficult truth. Kindness, when given blindly, can harm both the giver and the receiver. You see, in our younger days, we often helped without thinking much. A neighbor asked for money to buy food, we gave it. A relative needed a place to stay, we opened our doors. And for many years, we believed that this generosity would return to us in blessings. But here's the reality that life eventually teaches us. Helping someone in a way that encourages laziness, irresponsibility, or dependency is not true kindness, it's enabling their weakness. The difference between need and habit. I once knew a man named Robert. In his late 40s, he lost his job when the company he worked for closed. He was a hard-working man, and when I heard about his situation, I didn't hesitate to help. I gave him enough money for groceries and even helped him prepare a resume for his job search. In the beginning, Robert seemed grateful. But weeks turned into months, and the calls kept coming, not for job updates, but for more money. One day, I offered to connect him with a friend who owned a small landscaping business. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was honest. Robert refused. He said it was too hard on his back and that he would keep looking for something better. That was the moment I understood Robert wasn't in crisis anymore. He had turned my kindness into his comfort zone. I was no longer helping him get back on his feet. I was helping him avoid standing on them. The hidden cost of helping the wrong way. When you give to someone who will not help themselves, you're not only draining your own resources, you are also stealing from them the opportunity to grow strong through struggle. Think about it. Every hardship you overcame in your life, wasn't it the struggle itself that shaped you? When you had to work long hours to pay your bills, you learned discipline. When you faced illness, you learned the value of health. And when you endured heartbreak, you learned resilience. If someone had removed every obstacle for you, would you be the person you are today? Helping someone without expecting them to take responsibility is like lifting a child over every hurdle on a track. They will never learn to jump on their own. And one day, when you are no longer there to carry them, the first small obstacle will feel like a mountain. The wisdom of a bag of rice, not a lifetime of rice. In some cultures, there's a saying, give a bag of rice when someone is hungry, but do not give them rice for a lifetime. This means that when someone is in genuine need, when hunger is real and urgent, you step in. You give them what they need to survive the moment. But if you keep providing for them endlessly without requiring any effort on their part, you are feeding dependency, not dignity. True help is not about making someone's life easier forever, it's about giving them the strength and tools to make their own life better. When to say yes and when to say no. Saying no does not mean you are selfish. It means you are wise enough to protect both yourself and the person you care about. Before offering help, ask yourself, is this person truly in need? Or are they avoiding responsibility? Or will my help encourage independence? Or will it deepen dependency? Or am I giving from a place of genuine care? Or from a fear of being judged as unkind? These questions are not cold, they are compassionate. Because if your help keeps someone trapped in weakness, then it is not kindness, it is harm dressed as generosity. The danger of resentment. There is another cost to blind generosity: resentment. Many of us, especially in our older years, have given so much to family members or friends that we start to feel unappreciated. We think, after all I've done, how can they treat me like this? The truth is, people who grow used to taking rarely see the value of what they receive. What they receive becomes their expectation, not their blessing. And once generosity turns into expectation, gratitude disappears. By giving wisely, by setting limits, you protect the relationship from the poison of resentment. Helping without hurting, a better way. The goal is not to close your heart, but to help in ways that truly uplift. Instead of simply giving money, consider offering opportunities, guidance, or tools. If someone needs food, buy them groceries but also teach them how to budget and cook healthy meals. If someone needs a job, help them search but encourage them to take responsibility for applying and showing up. If someone needs emotional support, listen but avoid becoming the person they rely on to avoid facing their problems. This approach respects their dignity while protecting your own peace. A lesson from the past. I think of my own parents, who lived through the Great Depression. In those days, neighbors helped each other, but there was an unspoken rule. You helped those who were helping themselves. If a man was out looking for work every day, people pitched in with meals or childcare. But if a man sat idly by while his family went hungry, the community's patience was short. Help was a bridge, not a permanent shelter. My parents taught me that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let someone face the weight of their own choices, because only then will they find the strength to stand on their own. Why this matters more after 60. As we grow older, our resources, time, energy, money become more precious. We no longer have decades to recover from being drained by someone else's irresponsibility. Every choice we make now shapes the quality of our remaining years. Giving wisely allows us to keep helping where it truly matters without burning out, without losing our own stability, and without turning kindness into a burden. When you choose to help those who help themselves, your generosity multiplies. It lifts not only them, but you. Because there is nothing more fulfilling than seeing someone stand strong on their own because of the seed you planted. So remember this first life message. Help those who are willing to help themselves. Give enough to lift, but not enough to make them forget how to stand. In doing so, you preserve your own strength, protect your relationships, and give the other person the greatest gift of all self-reliance. 2. Never stand in the middle. Why being a go-between can cost you everything. My friends, after 60 years of living, you've likely been asked to play the role of mediator more than once. A friend asks you to vouch for them. A relative begs you to co-sign a loan. A neighbor asks you to speak to someone on their behalf. At first glance, it feels harmless. After all, you want to help. You believe in fairness. And you think, if I can bring two people together, I'm doing a good thing. But life has a way of showing us that standing in the middle of other people's conflicts, debts, or promises can turn even the warmest friendships into cold, bitter memories. The trap of good intentions. Let me tell you about Ellen, a woman I met in my early career. She had two friends, Sarah and Mark, who had fallen out over a small business deal. Sarah claimed Mark owed her money for work she had done. Mark claimed Sarah had overcharged. The tension grew. That's when Ellen decided to step in. She called meetings, passed messages, and tried to get them to reconcile. At first, both were grateful. But as weeks passed and emotions ran higher, each began to suspect Ellen was taking sides. Sarah accused her of protecting Mark. Mark accused her of pressuring him unfairly. In the end, neither friendship survived. Ellen had meant well, but by placing herself in the middle, she had become the easiest person to blame. Why mediators often end up the villain. In theory, a mediator should be neutral. But in reality, human emotions are not balanced scales. When people are in conflict, they are not seeking pure justice, they are seeking validation. And if you fail to give them the validation they crave, they will feel betrayed. When you co-sign a loan for someone, you are not only putting your money at risk, you are putting your relationship at risk. If they fail to pay, resentment builds, and it is often aimed at you. And if you try to pressure them to pay, they will see you not as a friend, but as a debt collector. The illusion of control. Many older adults step into these situations believing their maturity and wisdom can fix things. They think, I've seen enough in life to guide them through this. But here's the truth. When you take responsibility for someone else's choices, you also take responsibility for the consequences. And most of the time, those consequences are completely outside your control. When things go wrong, and they often do, you become the common enemy. Worse still, you may lose not just the relationship, but also your peace of mind, your reputation, and sometimes even your financial stability. The silent toll on your health and happiness. As we get older, peace becomes one of the most valuable assets we own. Stress takes a heavier toll on our bodies, raising blood pressure, disturbing our sleep, and draining our energy. When you get entangled in someone else's drama, you invite unnecessary stress into your life. You find yourself thinking about it at night, replaying conversations, worrying about what might happen next. And for what? Most of the time, these conflicts resolve themselves, or they don't without your involvement. But by standing in the middle, you've made yourself part of the storm. The wisdom of stepping back. There is a kind of wisdom that only comes with age, the understanding that not every battle is yours to fight. When someone asks you to be their middleman, ask yourself, or am I willing to risk this relationship for something that is not my responsibility? Or if this goes badly, am I ready to carry the blame? Or is there a way to help without standing between two opposing sides? Sometimes the best help you can give is to offer advice, resources, or encouragement, but let them handle the matter themselves. Saying no without guilt. Many older adults struggle with the word no because they've built a lifetime of being dependable. But saying no does not erase your kindness. It protects your ability to keep helping in the ways that truly matter. You can say, I care about both of you, but I don't want to stand between you. I'm happy to listen and offer my perspective, but I think you should work this out directly. This way, you remain supportive without making yourself the target when things go wrong. The story of a lifetime guarantee gone wrong. A friend of mine, Paul, once guaranteed a loan for his cousin. It wasn't a huge amount, $10,000, but enough to make Paul uncomfortable. The cousin promised it would be repaid within 6 months. 3 years later, the cousin had disappeared from his life, leaving Paul with the debt. And the rest of the family? They whispered that Paul should have known better than to expect repayment. Paul told me, I thought I was helping him get back on his feet. Instead, I paid for him to walk away. That experience changed him. Now, when asked for financial backing, he says, I don't loan money, I can only give what I'm willing to lose. The gift of peaceful boundaries. The older I get, the more I value peaceful boundaries. These are the invisible lines that protect your heart, your health, and your happiness. They don't make you cold, they make you wise. By refusing to stand in the middle, you save your energy for the people and causes where your help will truly make a difference. You protect your relationships from the strain of misplaced blame. And you keep your peace a treasure that grows more precious with each passing year. So remember this second life message. Do not make yourself the bridge for someone else's troubled waters. Often, the bridge is the first thing to collapse. Stand on your own shore, offer guidance from a safe distance, and let others walk their own path. 3. Give and receive why relationships need balance to last. My friends, one of the greatest lessons I've learned in my decades of observing human behavior is this. Relationships, whether with a spouse, a friend, or a family member, do not thrive on love alone. They require a living, breathing exchange of care, support, and respect. Without balance, even the closest bonds can wither. The myth of effortless love. We are often told that true love and friendship don't keep score, that the deepest connections are unconditional, selfless, and free from expectations. And while there is truth in this ideal, the reality is that every human relationship, no matter how deep, needs some level of mutual giving to survive. Think of a garden. You cannot plant seeds and expect a lush harvest without watering, sunlight, and regular care. If one person always waters and the other never lifts a finger, resentment grows like weeds. In marriage, sharing life's weight. I once spoke with Margaret and James, a couple married for over 50 years. When I asked the secret to their long union, James said, We've both carried the load. He meant it literally and figuratively. They had weathered job losses, health scares, and the raising of 3 children. When Margaret's health faltered, James took on the housework. When James lost his job in his 40s, Margaret worked nights to keep the lights on. They understood that partnership means partnership in joy and in hardship. Without that shared effort, one heart grows weary while the other becomes blind to the sacrifice being made. In friendship, the currency of reciprocity. Friendships can be just as fragile. I recall meeting 2 men, Bill and Arthur, who had been friends since their teenage years. But in later life, their bond began to fray. Bill always initiated the calls, arranged the visits, and brought small gifts during holidays. Arthur rarely returned the effort. At first, Bill brushed it off. But over time, he felt used, like his friendship was a one-way street. Eventually, he stopped calling. Arthur, surprised, accused Bill of being cold. What Arthur failed to see was that friendship is not about constant equality, but it is about mutual care. When one person always gives and the other always takes, the imbalance becomes too heavy to ignore. In family, the warmth of intentional connection. Family relationships are often assumed to be unbreakable. We are blood, people say, as if that alone guarantees closeness. But I have seen siblings drift apart and parent-child relationships grow cold, all because one side assumed the other would just understand. A son never visits his elderly mother because she knows I'm busy. A sister never calls her brother because he knows I care. Over time, that unspoken neglect hardens into distance. Even in families, the currency of affection needs regular deposits. A phone call, a handwritten note, an offer to help. These gestures matter. The danger of taking relationships for granted. It's easy, especially in our later years, to believe that the bonds we've held for decades will simply last forever. But no relationship, however strong, is immune to neglect. I've seen couples who stop sharing their thoughts because after 40 years, we already know what the other thinks. I've seen friends stop visiting because we'll catch up someday. That someday often never comes. And when the connection finally breaks, people say, I don't know what happened. But they do know. Deep down, they realize that the slow erosion came from forgetting that love is an active verb. Practical ways to keep the balance. Keeping relationships alive does not require grand gestures. It requires consistent, intentional care. 1. Share responsibilities. If you live together, make sure the burdens of daily life are shared. 2. Initiate contact. Don't always wait for the other person to call or visit. 3. Express appreciation. Say thank you even for small things. Gratitude strengthens the giver and the receiver. 4. Be present when you're together. Put down distractions. Look into their eyes. Listen fully. These small actions, repeated over time, weave a fabric of connection that can withstand the storms of life. A story of a marriage saved by balance. There was a couple, Carol and Henry, whose marriage nearly ended after 30 years. Carol had taken on most of the caregiving for Henry's aging mother, on top of managing the household and working part-time. She grew exhausted and bitter, while Henry immersed himself in his hobbies, unaware of how deep her fatigue ran. One day, Carol told him she felt invisible. That was the wake-up call Henry needed. He began cooking twice a week, handling his mother's appointments, and taking Carol out for small outings. Their marriage didn't just survive, it grew stronger. Why? Because Henry learned that love isn't just a feeling, it's an action that must be renewed through shared effort. Why this matters more as we age. After 60, our social circles often shrink. Retirement, relocation, and the passing of loved ones can leave us with fewer connections. This makes the relationships we still have even more precious. If we want these bonds to last, we must nurture them actively. This means noticing when we've been receiving more than we've been giving and adjusting. It means refusing to let pride or habit keep us from expressing love. So remember this third life message. Whether it's with a spouse, a friend, or a family member, relationships flourish when there is balance. Love may be the root, but daily acts of care and reciprocity are the water that keeps it alive. 4. Strength through self-reliance. Why depending on yourself is the surest path to freedom. My dear friends, there is a truth in life that is often uncomfortable, yet liberating once we embrace it. When you depend on others for your survival, you give them power over your life. When you stand on your own 2 feet, you claim your freedom. The silent cost of dependence. Many of us, especially as we grow older, lean on children, relatives, or even friends for support. Sometimes this is necessary. No one can do everything alone. But long-term, complete dependence comes with a hidden price: the loss of your independence, your voice, and your dignity. I once knew a gentleman named Robert who, after retiring, moved in with his son's family. At first, it seemed perfect. He had company, meals, and a roof over his head. But slowly, he realized his life was no longer his own. His schedule was dictated by the household's rhythm. Even small choices, like what to eat or when to go out, felt like they needed permission. Robert wasn't mistreated. His family loved him. Yet the subtle reality remained: when you live on someone else's terms, you cannot live fully on your own. Why financial independence is emotional independence. In America, we measure distance in miles, But freedom is measured in choices. And choices often come from having resources of your own. If you rely entirely on someone else for your basic needs, food, shelter, healthcare, then every decision you make will be filtered through their approval. But if you have even modest savings, a pension, or a small income stream, you retain the power to decide how to live your days. I have seen widows in their 70s start home-based businesses, not because they had to, but because they wanted to keep their independence. They didn't want to eat from someone else's bowl, as the old saying goes. And that independence kept their spirits young. The role of work even after retirement. Some people hear self-reliance and think it means working themselves to exhaustion. That's not the case. Self-reliance simply means maintaining the ability to provide for yourself in some way, whether financially, physically, or emotionally. Even small acts count. Growing a vegetable garden to reduce grocery costs. Taking on part-time or freelance work in something you enjoy. Learning to manage your own healthcare and paperwork without always delegating. These steps might seem minor, but they send a powerful message to yourself and to others that you are still the captain of your ship. The emotional toll of being controlled. When you rely too much on others, you may find yourself having to adjust your behavior, words, or even beliefs to keep them happy. Imagine having to smile politely when someone decides for you how you will spend your day, what you will eat, or even where you will live. Over time, that quiet resentment builds. And resentment, my friends, is poison to the soul. In contrast, when you can make your own decisions, you can choose freely without fear of offending your provider. That sense of autonomy is essential for mental well-being. A story of taking back control. Evelyn was 68 when her husband passed away. Without much savings, she moved in with her daughter. At first, she felt relieved to have support. But within a year, Evelyn began to feel invisible in her own life. She missed her friends, her routines, and her small apartment where she could drink coffee at midnight if she pleased. One day, she decided to take action. She began baking pies for neighbors and church members, charging a small fee. Word spread, and soon she had enough income to rent a modest one-bedroom place near town. It wasn't luxury, but it was hers. She told me, with tears in her eyes, "I feel alive again." Why self-reliance matters even if you have loving family. Some people think, my children would never control me. They love me too much. And perhaps that's true. But the issue isn't about love, it's about the natural imbalance that happens when one person depends completely on another. Even the kindest people can become controlling without realizing it, simply because they carry the responsibility for someone else's life. And for the person on the receiving end, that control can feel like a cage. Practical steps to build self-reliance after 60. 1. Assess your finances honestly, know exactly what you have, what you owe, and what income streams you can create. 2. Simplify your lifestyle, reduce expenses so you can live within your own means. 3. Stay physically capable, even light exercise helps you maintain mobility and independence. 4. Learn new skills, technology, budgeting, or even basic home repairs can give you more control over your daily life. 5. Keep a social network. Friends and community connections are a form of emotional independence. The deeper reward of self-reliance. Self-reliance is not just about survival, it's about self-respect. It's about waking up each day knowing you have a say in how your life unfolds. Even if you accept help from loved ones, and we all will at times, keeping some form of independence allows you to receive that help as a choice, not as a necessity. And that choice is what preserves your dignity. So remember this fourth life message. Depending on others may be necessary at times, but long-term freedom and happiness come from relying on yourself as much as you can. The more you stand on your own, the lighter your spirit becomes. 5. The balance between kindness and wisdom. Why goodness alone is not enough. My dear friends, kindness is a precious gift. A kind heart can warm even the coldest of days and heal wounds that no medicine can reach. But kindness, when not guided by wisdom, can also become a burden, one that drains you and harms the very people you're trying to help. The misunderstood virtue. Many of us were raised to believe that if you are generous and good, the world will reward you. But life has a different way of teaching its lessons. Sometimes, those who are too gentle become targets for those who take advantage of others. It's not that kindness is wrong, it is never wrong. But when kindness is given without thought, without limits, it can turn into enabling. And enabling, my friends, is not love, it's a trap. Why boundaries protect your goodness? Think about the old saying, Give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. This wisdom applies to every act of kindness. If you keep giving without teaching responsibility, you are not helping someone grow, you are keeping them dependent. And dependency without effort leads to laziness, resentment, and even a sense of entitlement. A story from real life. I once knew Margaret, a widow in her 70s who had a generous soul. She would give money to relatives in need, lend her car to neighbors, and often say yes to every request, no matter how inconvenient. At first, people praised her for her generosity. But over time, some stopped trying to solve their own problems, they simply turned to her. One day, she realized she had loaned out so much money that she couldn't cover her own medical expenses. The people she had helped avoided her calls. And that's when the truth hit her. She had confused kindness with self-sacrifice, and in the process, she had neglected herself. Why self-respect is part of kindness. True kindness includes respect not just for others, but for yourself. When you allow people to overstep, to take without giving back, you are not showing them love. You are teaching them that it's acceptable to use others. In the long run, that doesn't make them better, it makes them weaker. The role of wisdom in giving. Wisdom is the compass that guides kindness. It helps you see the difference between as someone who is temporarily in need and is working to improve their situation, as someone who is unwilling to make an effort and simply wants to benefit from your labor. The first group needs and deserves your help. The second group needs a lesson in responsibility, not another handout. Kindness and leadership. In leadership, whether in business, community work, or even family matters, excessive softness can be dangerous. A leader who is too forgiving may never address the real problems, and the group will suffer for it. The same applies to managing your personal life. There are moments when firmness is the most loving choice you can make. The quiet courage to say no. For many of us, saying no feels cold or unkind. But I want to assure you, when done with compassion and clarity, saying no can be the most loving thing you do. It's telling someone, I care about you enough to want you to stand on your own 2 feet. I will not make you weaker by removing every challenge from your path. A lesson from history. Throughout history, leaders who balanced compassion with strength built lasting legacies. Generals who were kind to their soldiers but decisive in battle-won wars. Parents who were loving but firm raised capable, independent children. And individuals who cared for others while maintaining their own stability were able to help for a lifetime, not just a season. Practical ways to keep kindness and wisdom together. 1. Pause before you give. Ask yourself, will this help the person grow, or will it make them dependent? 2. Set limits. It's okay to help within your means and no more. 3. Encourage effort. Pair your help with opportunities for the other person to take action. 4. Protect your own stability. You can't help anyone if you've depleted your own resources. 5. Stay compassionate, but clear. Firmness doesn't mean harshness. It means guiding with a steady hand. The deeper beauty of wise kindness. When kindness is paired with wisdom, it becomes a force that uplifts everyone involved. You help others without losing yourself. You give without creating dependency. And you teach by example, showing that love is not just a feeling, it's a responsibility. So remember this 5th life message. Kindness is a light in the world, but without wisdom, it can burn you out. Give with both heart and mind, and your kindness will be a blessing that lasts far beyond the moment. 6. Letting your children live their own destiny. The greatest gift a parent can give. My dear friends, as parents, we often carry a deep, unshakable instinct to protect our children. From the moment they are born, we feed them, clothe them, keep them safe, and guide their every step. But there comes a time in life, especially as we grow older, when the greatest act of love is to step back and let them face life on their own. The illusion of endless care. For many mothers and fathers, even after their children are grown, married, and have families of their own, the habit of overprotecting never fades. They continue to make sacrifices financially, emotionally, and even physically, believing that this is what good parents do. But here is the hard truth. Overprotection is not the same as love. It can rob our children of the very strength they will need to survive when we are no longer here. Why stepping back is an act of love. Life is not gentle with everyone. There are storms, setbacks, and trials. And while our instinct is to shield our children from pain, in doing so, we may prevent them from building resilience. Imagine a bird whose wings are never used because the parent keeps bringing food to the nest long after the chick is ready to fly. That bird may feel loved, but when the parent is gone, It will not know how to feed itself. A story that speaks volumes. I once met Richard and Elaine, a couple in their late 70s. They had spent decades helping their son, paying his bills, covering his debts, even helping with his mortgage. They told themselves they were ensuring his happiness. But when Richard suffered a stroke and they could no longer provide, their son struggled, unable to manage his own finances or cope with unexpected challenges. Through tears, Elaine admitted, "We thought we were giving him the world, but we never taught him how to hold it." The gift of responsibility. True parental love prepares a child for independence. It gives them the tools to face difficulties with courage. This means allowing them to make mistakes, face consequences, and solve problems without constant rescue. It's not about abandoning them, it's about trusting them to walk their own road. Why older adults struggle to let go. Part of the difficulty lies in identity. For so many years, we've been the provider, the protector, the fixer. Letting go feels like losing a part of ourselves. But what if letting go isn't losing? What if it's the final chapter of raising a child well? When you give them space to struggle, you are not failing them, you are honoring the adults they have become. Signs you may be over-involved. You feel anxious if your children face even small challenges without your help. You regularly solve problems for them before they have the chance to try. You continue to make significant financial sacrifices even though they are capable of earning. You feel resentful but unable to stop giving. If these feel familiar, it may be time to shift your role from provider to guide. Healthy ways to support without controlling. 1. Be available, not intrusive. Offer advice when asked, but resist the urge to dictate. 2. Encourage problem-solving instead of giving answers. Ask questions that help them think. 3. Set financial boundaries. Support in ways that promote independence, not dependency. 4. Celebrate their resilience. Acknowledge when they handle something without your help. 5. Focus on your own life. Invest in hobbies, friendships, and self-care so your identity is not tied solely to your children. The freedom you both deserve. When you stop carrying the weight of your adult children's lives, you free them to grow and you free yourself to live fully in your later years. You have given decades of care. Now you can focus on your health, your passions, and your own dreams. This is not selfishness, it's wisdom. Your children will learn not just from your words, but from the example of you living with dignity, balance, and self-respect. A final reflection. Letting go does not mean loving less. It means trusting that the seeds you planted in your children will grow into strength, character, and wisdom. And one day, when they face life storms without your hand to hold, they will remember the lessons you taught, not by rescuing them every time, but by believing they could stand on their own. So remember this sixth life message. The most loving thing you can do for your children is to let them live their own destiny. Give them the freedom to succeed, to fail, to learn, and to grow, and you will have given them the greatest gift a parent can give. My dear friends, we have walked together through 6 life messages, each born from the wisdom of time, the lessons of hardship, and the quiet truths that only years can teach. We spoke of helping wisely, of giving without enabling, of protecting your dignity, of respecting boundaries, of earning through diligence, and of letting your children live their own destiny. Each message carries a thread, and when woven together, they form a fabric strong enough to wrap around the heart, to keep you warm in the colder seasons of life. Why these messages matter now. At our age, whether you are in your 50s, 60s, 70s, or even 80s, the days ahead become more precious. We no longer have the endless energy of youth, but we have something far richer: perspective. Perspective allows us to see that life is not about clinging tightly, but about living wisely. It's about knowing when to hold on, and when to let go. It's about giving in ways that lift others up without losing yourself in the process. The quiet power of living wisely. These 6 messages are not rules, they are lanterns. You can carry them into the darker valleys of life, and they will light the way. You see, wisdom is not loud. It doesn't shout over the noise of the world. It whispers in the quiet moments when you are watching the sunrise from your porch, when you are sitting with an old friend over coffee, when you are alone in your thoughts at night. Your life still has many chapters left. Do not think, even for a moment, that your best days are behind you. Every morning you wake up, you have a chance to love deeper, live calmer, and leave behind a legacy that will outlast your years. And legacy is not built by wealth alone. It is built by kindness, boundaries, courage, and wisdom, qualities the younger generation desperately needs to see in us. My gentle invitation to you. If these 6 life messages have touched something in your heart, I invite you to carry them into your daily life. Try one change this week, just one, and notice how it shifts your peace, your relationships, and your sense of self. But don't stop here. There is still so much we can share together. This channel is a gathering place for hearts like ours, people who want to live the rest of their lives not just long, but well. Your voice matters. I would love to hear from you. Which of these 6 messages spoke to you most deeply? Which one feels the hardest to live by? Leave your thoughts in the comments, not just for me, but for others who may be walking the same road. Your words may be the very encouragement someone else needs tonight. Stay with us. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next conversation we share. Pass this video along to a friend who may need these gentle reminders. Together, we can build a community where wisdom is treasured, and where no one walks this season of life alone. Thank you for listening, for thinking, and for sharing a piece of your time with me today. May the rest of your day be calm, your heart be light, and your steps be steady.